What's up? It's your girl Sakara, and right now I'm with Toya J, the author. How are you today?
I am fabulous.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about bold. Be bold. Tell me, what is the best way that you like to refer to bold?
So for me, bold is brilliantly overcoming life's disappointments. We go through so many challenges in life, but it's not about the challenges, it's how we're able to overcome them.
This book is all about self-love, empowering women. So when was it that you realized that you wanted to be vulnerable and you wanted to share so many personal experiences?
So this book has been such a journey, book 3, to get out, and I think it's the entire process that allowed me to be vulnerable. Because initially when I started, I was like literally trying to be comfortable and trying to be safe. And then I recognized that your vulnerability is actually your strength. And also on my social media page, like a lot of women, they come to me and they're like, oh my God, you're just so confident. How did you get here? And I wanted folks to understand that it's not easy. It's a process, but you have to go through the process in order to arrive at this place where I'm at. So I literally had to be so uncomfortable, and my uncomfortability allowed me to grow into this fantastic, comfortable woman who is just so in touch with who she is altogether.
Yes, and I want to give people an example. There's so many examples where you're expressing yourself and being honest, but even from the very beginning, you write, the loving memory of my past self, 1977 to 2017. So grateful to my past for all the lessons learned. I love you, but I don't miss you. Now, if that's not being vulnerable, I don't know what is, especially I don't miss you part. So I just want to talk to you about what happened in 2017, and for you to write that line, especially I don't miss you, how did that make you feel inside?
Oh, it was freeing. It was just so liberating, because I think sometimes initially I used to say, you know what, I wish I could erase my past. Like, this is just not happening. I'm just over it. But then with my growth, I recognized that that past is so necessary. So when I wrote that line, it's literally just saying, like, I've arrived and I am at peace. I'm so free with myself that nothing is going to stop me. I appreciate it, but I really don't miss her. Why should I miss her?
Yes, exactly. I totally understand that. And I also want to talk to you about the process of saying, change your mind, change your life, and be mindful of your inner dialogue. Because I'm going to say probably whoever that other woman was, her inner dialogue is not the same as what it is today. So,
Absolutely.
yes, let's get into that process.
Absolutely. That is very interesting, right? And I think that is so powerful and that is so profound. Everything, I believe, it's all in our mind. Sometimes we harbor these things in our subconscious, not recognizing how it's manifesting and how it is showing up. And when I talk about that inner dialogue, we are just such individuals. We can be so hard on ourselves. And towards the end of the book, I talk about shutting that bitch up in my head, because she consistently shows up in times when you have moments of doubt, which is okay. She will come and she'll just talk you out of something that could be so profound. But then if you sit and you listen to her, she is gonna kill you, because she's gonna allow you to develop so much fear that you just can't move forward. So I literally had to say, it's about changing the way I process everything, right? Instead of getting up and saying, like, it's a practice for me. Like, every morning I get up and I start my day and I literally say to myself, I am going to be great, I'm going to be fabulous, and I'm going to be fantastic, because it's repetition. When you want to change something, you got to keep repeating the behaviors. And just even when you think that you have it right, you just want to still remind yourself. So that's what that comes about, your inner dialogue, and just like shutting that bitch up in your head.
Yes, would you say that woman was, or girl rather, was developed when you were a child? And do you know a lot of women who had to go through that process to realize, like, hey, this doubt will literally crush you if you don't overcome it?
Absolutely. I think, like, let's even take it way back. Historically, the moment our parents find out our sex, they assign us roles. Society also does that as well. So as a woman, okay, fine, you're a girl, this is how you're supposed to act, this is how you're supposed to think, this is how you're supposed to sit, and it's supposed to be proper. And then even with our parents have their own identity of who we should be, how we should be, right? But then you have to get to that point where you got to find your own identity. Because I think this is what Bold Soul Searching Monologues is all about. It's like really conveying the importance of finding your true self. Not until you can acknowledge every part of who you are. And it's not just the physical, but it's more the internal self. And a lot of times we struggle to tap into that. But I'm here to tell people, if you can't do that, it makes no sense. Because you could get up today, I could change my wig, right? And I could change anything physically. But if I did not take the time to address what's going on with me internally, those past traumas, makes no sense.
Yes, they catch up to you.
It catches up to you.
Definitely. And I want to say this book, even when I was reading it, it made me reflect on my own choices and my own life decisions, because it's impossible. How can you not? So along with that, did you want your readers to feel that, hey, let me think about my own choices, and what other thoughts did you have that you would really like your readers to feel when they read this book?
So absolutely. Great question, by the way. That is so important, because if we are not taking the time out to try to figure out where we're going, it's about self-reflection. And out of this journey, I started journaling as well, because that really helps me. Like every single day, at the end of my day, I reflect on, okay, fine, how could I have done things differently? Because a lot of times, well, for me, I'll use I statements, right? Some of the choices that I've made in my life, I was immature. I did not understand. And that lack of knowledge allowed me to make decisions that I had no business making. It's that simple. Because when you don't know, they say knowledge is power and understanding. So those decisions, you're based off like what society tells you to do or what was learned. You know, children live what they learn, and children learn what they live. It's that simple.
Wow, that was a really powerful quote, by the way. So I do want to talk about the fact that you talk about sex so freely and so open, and that is difficult for a lot of women to do. Even in the hip-hop culture, there were songs that came out and people were like, oh, how could they say that, right? Like WAP, for example. So for you, how did you find that comfort level to be so explicit, vulnerable, and honest about your own sexual experiences?
That was easy. Easy in the sense that because I have been so intentional about my healing journey, and it's healing inside out. So I could disclose I'm in therapy. I've been going through therapy for a while now, because I realized I had so many underlying issues and I was lying to myself. Honesty with self is so powerful and so profound. And in my quest to find this peace that I have today, I had to do that. Sex, of course, it's such a taboo. And coming from my culture, you don't talk about sex. How dare you? It's hush hush. And even growing up as a child, you were told that sex is bad. Sex should happen in the dark. You shouldn't have sex before marriage. So all of that negative narrative, it stood within you. But then when I had sex the first time and thereafter, it's like, okay, it was okay. Some experiences were good, some experiences were bad. But then again, it goes back to having that knowledge, having that power. When you're healed, you could express your sensuality, your sexuality in so many different ways. So for me, at this point in my life, it's okay for me to talk about sex. It's okay for me to talk about my sexual journey because it's necessary. It's healing for me. And I'm hoping that this book will help other women to be empowered and to realize you are not your past. Your past is necessary because your past helps you to get to the next step in your life, your future. How could I be here if I didn't have a past? And that's my past, and you're not going to use my past against me. I take my power.
I love that, especially because a lot of women do have memories and experiences that they really wish they did not do. And I love the fact that you actually talk about stories where you're like, I had this person in my life and they weren't really genuine. They lied to me. Yeah, so you had so many stories in there, which I think was great because every woman can relate to being lied to, betrayed of some sort. So for you to find power in those type of experiences really mean a lot. So I want to talk about the people who reached out to you. and what they said to you and how you actually made them feel by being so honest and open.
So before we even get to that, I want to address the part about where I have taken back power, about some of my sexual decisions, right? That I believe at times. Now the adult me, the matured me, recognized that people really didn't lie to me. I lied to myself. While I understand that, of course, some folks were in this for their own selfish reasons, but then they didn't put a gun to my head to do anything. So this is where I had my haha moment, because you are in control, but you can't be in control if you're broken, if you're vulnerable, if you're dependent and codependent on another person to find your happiness. What I recognize in the process is that only you can make you happy. The next person that steps in your life, they should be able to embellish that. If they're not able to do that, then stop wasting your time.
That was amazing.
And for the women that have reached out to me, I think it was such a humbling moment, because some women, they've been so transparent, so emotionally naked, and it made me realize, even if it is just one person at a time, I'm really okay with that, because what I am doing, I'm being of service. I am saying, okay, you know what, this is what happened, this is what I did, and this is what I continue to do to maintain this. Because not only is it about like, okay, fine, you know what, you're re-traumatizing yourself to go through all of this, but what systems are you putting in place? What protective systems are you putting in place to take care of you? And I had to learn to be kind to myself, to be compassionate to myself. And whoa, I'm just loving it and I'm embracing it all.
That is so beautiful, and I love the fact that you're being so open. I want to relate that to masturbation, which is something you do talk about, as well as sex love. So let's talk about the comparison, because I feel like when you talk about it, right, in the book, it's more so about self-love and pleasing yourself and not yearning to a man to do that. But then when you're by yourself at the end, how does it make you feel? Like, what's the comparison between the two? Is it a stronger feeling because you didn't just give yourself to someone else?
It's like the best feeling ever. It is the best feeling. I'm going to tell people, self-pleasure, that's self-love. Because what you realize, and again, this is a woman who has healed herself inside out. And also, I'm like such a spiritual person. People may be like, what is she talking about? How is she going to mix being not being married and you're talking about God? But God has blessed me in so many ways. In those moments, after that dark hell, God was always there for me. And He promised that He's always going to make a way for me. And He showed up. And because I know that this man is always standing there with his open arms, loving me, holding me, I'm never alone. So I'm going to take it a step further. When we talk about self-pleasure, the only difference, and I'm going to be honest, there is a difference. I'm not going to sit here and kid anyone. There is a difference when you're having that intimacy or with that physical touch, right? When you're talking about self-pleasure, I don't have someone to hold me. No. But then when it's more mental as well, it's a lot mental, because there is that mindful self-pleasure. And what I mean by that, it's like I'm creating a scene. So from how I'm going to set the scene, when I'm going to have candles, I'm going to take a bubble bath, right? And I'm going to get my vibrators, whatever toy I choose to use at that point in time. So it's like literally just like pleasing my mind, body, and soul. It's the best thing ever. Because you never have to worry. Am I going to get an STD? Is he going to call me tomorrow? Right? Is he going to... No, you don't have to worry about any of that, because you are in control. And I think this is the power that I'm talking about. A lot of folks may be like, masturbation. Ugh, turn your nose up. Okay, that was me a few years ago, because I was laughing with one of my girlfriends. And I'm like, I remember when you said this to me, and I was like, oh no, there's no way I would do it. And now, it's the best thing ever. And you know what? That release I get after I'm able to pleasure myself, I sleep like a baby.
On top of that, I noticed you did have scenes where you wrote about candle lighting, and it was really cool to know that you write about it. So when did you get into that, like writing about the experience?
So again, I think this is, so Bold Soul Searching Monologues. I was supposed to release this book from last year sometime. But things happen, and again, I say to myself, everything happens for a reason. At this point, no matter, like even when we're supposed to meet today, and you text me, I was like, okay, not a big deal. I have learned to just sit still. Be still with whatever is happening. You don't know why this is happening. You don't have to understand, and it's really okay. So, I guess it just happened. It just stumbled upon me, I'm gonna be honest. And it was the best thing that I could ever have done, because it's also healing for me.
Yes, I love that, and I think that is so important. And I do want to talk about the fact that you say I learned to let go and let God. And you can tell that even throughout this whole interview, you just said being still and just letting go. So that process for you, did it take a long time, or did it really just happen overnight for you? Like, did you pray about it?
Yeah. So I grew up in a Christian home. I was this little girl who went to Sunday school. So there was always this influence of Christianity and godliness. And I have to go back to this. I probably always will. In 1996, I had a near-death experience, and it was God. Like, I literally went through that, and it was God. And I made a promise, right? I didn't really follow through all the time on my promise, but then this was a commitment I had to make for myself. And through my moments of, struggling with my depression and the loneliness, I connected to God. I found God. I started reading my Bible more. I started having conversation, because living by yourself, okay, sometimes I just openly talk to God like he's sitting next to me, because that works, and that's my process. So this God is not something new to me. I grew up knowing God, and I know that he is so powerful. If we would only trust him and believe. That's what was missing for me. I didn't really believe. And I would hop off Faith Street a lot when things wasn't going right. And then I also realized that I was not giving clarity to God with what I was asking for. And then I also realized that God gives me what I need, not what I want. So I may pray to God, hypothetically speaking, I may pray to God that I need $20. But God may say, no, I'm not going to give you $20. I'm going to highlight a skill, a talent that you have, so you could get that $20, because it's about longevity. We live in a society where there's this instant gratification. We want everything, we want it now. So, yeah.
Yes, that is amazing. And I think a lot of people can relate to growing up in a Christian household and trying to grow into an adult and be themselves and battle with, coming back.
And also, that's a great point too. And I think it's also like finding God on your terms, not on what society, even your mom or anyone else is telling you. You gotta arrive at that place, because until you can find that for yourself and you could seek that and you could see him working, even if I tell you, it's not going to really make that much of a difference, because learning is the best experience that you could have. You have to go through it to really understand.
I freed myself from imposed bondage. Now that is really deep, because I think a lot of us, we harm ourselves, and I think maybe that would be like thinking wise, but I want to know from your opinion when you say imposed bondage.
So imposed bondage for me, pretty much that's just me talking about me like holding my past negative experiences and allowing that to guide me. Like I said initially, your past is necessary, but I'm not my past. And every day I believe in growth and developing self. If you're not doing that, then I don't know what's going on with your life. But you have to be able to let it go, and know that it's okay. But what I was doing, I was holding on to it, and I carried it everywhere. Like sometimes like that emotional baggage we carry around with. So we're walking around with the low self-esteem, the depression, all of that, right? I had to unload my luggage and get rid of things that was no longer serving me.
I love that. And you also talk about ignoring red flags.
Oh.
So I really want to get into that, because I want to know, what is the biggest red flag you think you ignored and that you regret ignoring on top of that?
So my biggest red flag was that I realized that he didn't value me. You could tell that. Like, you have someone telling you, oh yeah, they will call you, they're not consistent, right? They're not consistent. They don't have a plan for you, like when you're talking to them. You know, it's like they're not honest, and you could tell, you could smell the bullshit a mile away. But then because you're so desperate and in your quest to feel love, the illusion of love, you sacrifice that. So I am just like super excited about this book, and I want folks to know that it's really okay to be vulnerable. Your vulnerability is your strength. Find that inner little girl and love on yourself so much that every single day you find something new. You discover something that you didn't even know exists about you, because you have the power. Everything that you're looking for lives within you. You don't need to look outside, because that's like a distraction. Focus on you, and when things start going left, you just go right with it. But you gotta heal. Self-love, self-pleasure, sexual pleasure, everything. You gotta find that power within you. Take back your power, take back control, and be the awesome, audacious woman you were meant to be. Thank you to all my readers who will be purchasing this book. You need to purchase it and tell your girlfriends about it. Thank you so much.